It's coming up a lot, especially during the pandemic. What is toxic positivity and how can we avoid it? Right up front, I have to say this. The title of my book is Pathological Positivity. It was written a full 6 years before the pandemic, but there's an important distinction between what I'm calling pathological positivity and toxic positivity. I had never heard the phrase toxic positivity until we were well into the pandemic. And I think it's because there's a lot of people who are trying to deal with the difficult situations that are coming up as a result of the pandemic or other challenges that they have in life. Let's get a definition of what toxic positivity is. Toxic positivity is the belief that no matter how dire the circumstances, that you should just think positive. How annoying is that? This is a damaging philosophy that denies the pain and the difficulties that real people have as they go through life's experiences. It's not fair, and it's very invalidating to deny people's pain. Toxic positivity is a tendency to have people just ignore that and paste a smile on their face so that they can move on through life. It doesn't work, and it actually hurts people. I've been a psychologist now for 30 years. I'm pretty sure that the reason this has become an issue now is because of a subculture out there who think that if you just ignore the difficulties, they'll go away somehow. And you and I both know that that never happens. These people may be well-meaning, but I think it's important for us to get to the bottom of what positivity really is and the difference between toxic positivity and what I'm calling pathological positivity. Just to give you an example of how this can really impact people, a young mom in one of our coaching groups recently had been experiencing some real difficulties with her kids. She had been involuntarily inducted into the Involuntary Homeschoolers Association. And some of you parents know exactly what I'm talking about there. And this created some real challenges for her as she was trying to balance everything else in her life. And now she's handling the kids at home with school. Her friend told her, well, look on the bright side. This is an awesome time to spend more time with your kids. And even though that's probably true, it denied the difficulty and the challenge and the hardship that had created for this young mom. She felt completely invalidated, and honestly, she didn't feel as close to that friend afterwards. There has to be something better than this toxic, just pretend everything's okay philosophy. So how can we avoid this toxic positivity and get back to something that's actually helpful for us? I mentioned that the title of my book is Pathological Positivity, and I take a little flack for that because in the world of psychology, pathological means disordered, disconnected from reality, crazy. And it sounds a little crazy at first to consider what I'm proposing here. And that is that we can take a higher level of control over our own mind and intentionally choose a positive position. But there's a big difference between this and toxic positivity. Let's call it authentic positivity for a moment, and that might help. Authentic positivity is understanding how to operate the equipment of your own mind. When you understand the processes that are going on, it puts you back into an intentional position of control so that you can actually steer your mind and get it to work for you instead of against you. Here's one of the main differences between this and toxic positivity. I'm not here to tell you how to think. I do not have that kind of authority. I just want you to see that you are thinking, that your thinking has an impact, and as you learn how to operate the equipment of your own mind, it puts you back into control over things that you didn't feel any control over. Let's talk about 2 specific processes that you can immediately take more control over. I'm going to share 2 powerful processes with you next, but before we do that, if you're engaged in this kind of conversation and you want to be part of the solution, click on that subscribe button right down there and we'll team up on this. The first process I want you to notice is called evaluation. It's judgment. And notice that you can't turn this off. You're constantly judging. You judge yourself, you judge your spouse, you judge your children, you judge the circumstances of your life, you judge the pandemic, you judge the government, you judge the economy, you're judging me. You can't stop. And neither can I. It's a human characteristic. This judgment or evaluation has to be based on some kind of a comparison. I did a conference for some educators recently where we talked about this very issue. The word evaluation implies comparison. And as these teachers and school administrators are evaluating the children, they have to base that on some comparison with established standards. So just notice that your judgment of everything that's going on in your life is based on some comparison with some standard. Just notice it. Here's the catch. It is what it is. Now, you've heard that before, and it's probably even irritating sometimes, depending on who's saying it and why. All it means is that things are the way that they are right now without changing anything. It's who you are, it's where you are, it's who you're with, it's what you have. It's the way things are. And it could always be better. Is this true? Think about it. Now, don't take my word for it. I want you to run it through your own filters and see if that's true. It could always be better, right? Yeah, no matter how well you're doing. Is that true the other direction? Oh yeah, it could always be worse. So notice that. And I think that's one of the things that got this toxic positivity going, because it could always be worse. Well, just think about all those worse things and you're in a better position. Okay, that's actually true from a psychological standpoint. When we compare where we are with something far worse than what we've already got, we feel better about what we've got. What do we often do though? We compare what we've got to something much better than what we've got. Like that young mom I was telling you about. Before the pandemic, had her kids go off to school, leaving her a little bit of time to do her other things. Well, now the kids are home all day, and so compared to having a little break in which she can do her things, this feels overwhelming. But you know what? I've also worked with moms who have lost their children, either to disease or illness, or even abduction. Can you even imagine that? Well, yes, you can. And that's my point, because as you imagine that and you compare that to the Involuntary Homeschoolers Association, you suddenly feel a lot better about the situation that you have. So that comparison is true. But in toxic positivity, we're denying the pain of what it is. We won't deny the pain. We'll simply accept and acknowledge that we are constantly judging and evaluating our situation. I'm not telling you to do that differently. I want you to notice that you're doing it. And in noticing it, it gives you the power to perhaps choose a position that might serve you better. Notice that you're constantly judging and that involves comparison. That's all. Here's the second process. And this is where it gets really exciting, because positivity, authentic, what I call pathological positivity, is the ability to take whatever we've got and move forward to create an upgrade. And this is the process. It's called creation. Creation of what is to be. Not what it is, that already exists. I'm talking about what is yet to be, and that doesn't exist yet. We haven't created it yet. So how do we create something? I've studied the process. I've interviewed thousands of people about this over the course of 30 years. And here's how it happens. You have to imagine it first. You have to. You can't create anything without first imagining it. It's a necessary component of the creation process. So as we imagine what is to be, that gives us the template, the blueprints, the plans for how we can go about creating it. And you know, I want to insert something here, because the discontent that we feel, the pain, the difficulty, the frustration, which is real, is also an important part of a creation process. In fact, without that, we don't create anything. Putting that into context, as you feel the real pain of where you are, it can entice your mind then to think about, okay, well, if not this, then what? See, that's a creation idea. And as we move into creation mode, think of it as a different mode in your brain. Creation requires imagination. Now think about it. When you imagine, because you don't know what's coming, how are you doing next week? You don't know. You've got something to do with it. Please don't forget that. But you don't know. So all you can do is imagine it. And as you imagine that what's coming for you is worse than what you've already got, how do you feel? That, my friends, is anxiety. There's 30 years of clinical experience in a nutshell. When we imagine that what's coming is worse, we feel anxiety. Do you notice it? I just want you to notice it. I'm not telling you how to think. I want you to see that you are thinking. What happens when we imagine or anticipate or expect that what's coming is even better than what we've already got? How do we feel? Do you feel it? That's hope. And you have the power to create that by steering your mind in one of those directions and first noticing that you're already doing it. You're already anticipating, expecting, imagining that something's going to happen. I'm simply saying notice it. Notice where your mind is taking you with that and that it has an impact. You're probably already noticing how these principles can improve your life, but guess what? It's also important to train our children to know these things. I am so passionate about helping parents like you. We've got a whole series of videos here on the channel that will help you with your self-care to put you in a position where you can better serve your children. Click on that next video so that you can get more strategies for how to take care of you as a parent.